And I want to talk to you about something brand new that we're working on as a leadership team at Willow. We started working on it about 18 months ago, but we added a lot of horsepower about 6 months ago, and I want to tell you why. One of my close friends on our staff is a guy named Gary Schwamlein. He's a tough German guy, 70 years old, but he's in charge of our international work, and we're in like 90 different countries. And so I travel with Gary. I'll meet him tomorrow in Mumbai, and we'll travel through India and other places in Asia on this trip. I've traveled with Gary for many weeks out of the year, every year for 16 or 17 years. 6 or 8 months ago, he told me that his 5-year-old granddaughter, Natalie, had headaches that were unexplainable. Doctors couldn't figure it out. Well, I've got a 6-year-old grandson named Henry, and whenever we're on trips, you know, he's talking about Natalie and I'm talking about Henry, and we love these little kids as grandparents. You know, I told myself I wasn't going to become a shameless idiot when I became a grandfather. I'm a shameless idiot. So anyway, long story short, Natalie has a brain tumor, and horrible story short, she died. And I watched a part of Gary die. So the funeral comes. It's in a distant city. I get on an airplane, I go down, and I sit next to Gary at Natalie's funeral. And because it was an open casket right there, and I could imagine my sense of loss if my grandson Henry were there, and because Gary's talked about Natalie since the day she was born, I couldn't control my emotions for over an hour. We get done and we go outside, and like 3 days after that, we were supposed to do a trip together to Asia. And I took him outside and I said, Gary, do not go on this trip. Just don't. I mean, my gosh, I can do it alone. I've done it before. Don't worry about me. And he goes, Bill, this has been such a horrendous time of grief and loss, and we've been holed up in this home with our son and daughter-in-law for so many weeks. This is closure. I have to get on with my life. And I said, well, I'm not telling you can't come. I'm just saying if you need to stay, stay. So we meet up in Hong Kong 3 or 4 days later. And he had gone a little earlier than me, and so we're having a dinner together, and I said, did you go to church this morning in Hong Kong? He said, yes, I did. I said, how was it? He said, it was tough, and Gary's tough. He is as tough as they come. I said, what do you mean it was tough? And he goes, well, it's the first time since Natalie's funeral that I went to a church, and I realized I was sitting in the middle of all these Christians, and they didn't know what I was carrying. And there was a fresh wave of grief that swept over me during that service, and I had a hard time. And I said, well, did anybody talk to you? Did anybody greet you? Did anybody pray for you or anything? He just shook his head, and he was crying at the table. He goes, oh, like that. And gang, there are defining moments in the lives of leaders where something just hits you, and you go, no, that's not right. It's not right that a broken-hearted guy sits in a church surrounded by loving Christians, and there's no mechanical or group dynamic device that allows for someone to see what he's going through, and no plan that someone can receive care who's coming to church with a broken heart. And I'm sitting at that table, my head's exploding, because I know back at Willow, hundreds of people come to our services with broken hearts, and nobody finds out. And they leave and sit at a restaurant table and describe the same story about my church, that they sat in an auditorium with thousands of people, and nobody reached out to them, and no one discerned that they were carrying a heavy load. And so that night I hardly slept. I just said, if it's the last thing I do before I'm done at Willow, I'm going to figure out a way that we can bring a more pastoral presence into what agreeably is a challenging situation because we have a large auditorium. So what we've been working on, and we're only at the early stages of this, is what we call the development of section pastors. Here's the stage at Willow, okay? And we have, as in every auditorium of any size, I don't care if you have a 200-seat auditorium, a 2,000-seat auditorium, because of fire codes and all that, you have to have seating sections of various sizes. Willow has a large auditorium. We actually don't let the number mess with you. We have 27 sections. We've got a mezzanine level. We've got an upper balcony level, but we have 27 of these sections. And so what we've been working on, I'll try to condense this down. We're putting a section pastor with a team around the section pastor in every one of these sections. And we've been training these people and raising them up over the last year and a half. And we're saying, you know, your job, you section pastors, is to fill these seats, to connect everybody in that section to one another as time progresses. Your job is to raise up some emotionally and spiritually and relationally intelligent people who search for people who show signs of having trouble in their life. And then you gently and prayerfully go up to a person who's showing some signs of having a burdened heart, and you simply ask them, are you all right? Can I pray for you? They're supposed to fill the section, connect the section, mobilize people in that section to use their spiritual gifts, and then try to get these people in small groups over time. Again, this is a big job for us. We've been working on it tirelessly for a long time. The one service, our 11:15 service, where we have this pretty much in motion. When I stand in front of our 11:15 service, where we have 27 section pastors, and this has been going on for some time now, it's like standing in front of a totally different church. Because people know each other. And because when a stranger comes, now, these smart section pastors, they send recruiters out in the lobby. And then when new people come, they go, hey, you look new. Come to our section, because our section is awesome. If you sit here, a bunch of losers here. But our section here, see? And now I could talk to you a long time about this. But just last week when I was at Willow, at the 11:15 service, that service is growing at a 15% faster growth rate than the other services where this is not fully laid out yet, in part because now when someone comes and they get introduced in a section, the section leader or someone on the team will say, now we hope we'll see you next week, and we'll save a seat for you right here, and we'll miss you if you don't come. Do you know, in a technologically advanced world where everybody does stuff by email and Facebook and stuff like that, do you even remember the last time someone actually said to you around a Christian setting, I will miss you if you don't come? And do you remember the last time when you felt the freedom to approach someone to say, I think maybe I detect that there's something heavy going on in your heart. I have all the time in the world. Can we go out to a cup of coffee or something like that? And see, I'm really determined about this, and it goes back to that dinner in Hong Kong. I don't want one more broken-hearted person at Willow to leave without some kind of touch from one of our people. So if it's the last thing I do, we're going to pull this off. Okay? Is that helpful to anybody? All right.